What's going on, guys? In this video, I want to talk about learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu online and my thoughts on that whole thing. So check it out. So my feeling on learning jiu-jitsu online, I feel as though there are benefits to watching techniques online and trying and learning things online, but that is, and I'll talk about that a little more later, but that is kind of where I would end that. What I'm telling you when you look at the title of this video where I say stop learning jiu-jitsu online, there's a few things that I want to talk about specifically in that phrase. This may be old, this is like an old controversy, but it comes up because recently I had to have a talk with some of my students about like learning online. And so it kind of brought it back to the forefront. So years ago, the Gracies created an online academy. And that's fine. If you look online, there's a lot of online courses. Keenan Cornelius has one. A lot of academies, a lot of well-known jiu-jitsu practitioners and jiu-jitsu professors have created online BJJ courses. Now, as long as we're clear that these courses are strictly meant to improve someone's current jiu-jitsu and not to rank them up in any way, shape, or form, I don't really see a problem with that. Where the Gracies came under fire and it became very controversial is that it came out that they were actually issuing belts through their online academy, through just watching people do certain jiu-jitsu or Brazilian jiu-jitsu moves, and then like coaching them via email and whatnot, and then giving them ranks just by doing that. Now I want to say, since that controversy, or since they came under fire for that, and I think at one point Henry even said that he felt that the online belts was more effective than a belt earned in an academy. And I have to 100% disagree with that. Anyway, they must have reassessed the whole thing and they pulled it all back. And now I think they offer a technical blue belt online, which is still, you shouldn't be ranking anyone online when it comes to BJJ. But I checked their website recently and it does say that they will coach you through techniques if you send video back and forth, which is fine. But in order to get a rank, you have to actually go to a Gracie Academy and test with them directly. So I think that is definitely a better way of doing it. Although I'm still of the mindset that you shouldn't be trying to earn ranks online. It's just not the route to take when it comes to this martial art. Jiu-jitsu is so complex. And the biggest part of learning the complexity is the live rolling. Drilling with a partner and getting these techniques down cold and then going into live rolls and trying them and making the necessary adjustments when the tensions are high and people are using strength and athleticism and all these things are happening and you're basically in like a full live sparring moment, and then you can try these moves and adjust them adequately to work. But just going through the motions online, I just don't see that as a way to truly learn jiu-jitsu. It's just not, I can't wrap my head around that. Now, a little story time. Another reason this really rubs me the wrong way is years ago, I think I was still a purple going to brown. And I'd opened my first Muay Thai school. And I was having open rolls on Sunday. And I was rolling with a blue belt, right? And at that time, I didn't know the online thing really existed. This is around 2014. And this blue belt came in. And it was a friend that I knew through work. And he had started doing jiu-jitsu. And he said that he kept referring to his roommate as his instructor. And I was like, okay, then he must be at least purple or brown. But he was a blue belt. And I was like, okay, he might be showing him some basics. Then the blue belt shows up and I roll with him and he's competent for his rank, but he's not good. And that's fine. Each people learn at different paces. So we start having a conversation, because we always talk about like where they trained and stuff like that. And my friend Eli was with me and he was a brown belt at the time. And this gentleman was telling us how basically he goes to a school where they just do the online courses and they all earn their belts that way, just showing the moves, and that they don't require anyone to roll to rank up. And it got so heated that Eli and I were actually shouting. It was just unreal to us, coming from like the Iron Man days of jiu-jitsu, or just the, just the jiu-jitsu that we came from. You can't even earn a stripe if you haven't rolled or learned to roll or show competency while rolling. The thought of a bunch of people earning ranks by just sitting there and showing moves, we could not accept it. And he was arguing with us, like, and it got heated back and forth. And then I talked to a friend of mine, Bobby Lash, and he was saying that he was aware in this upper middle class neighborhood where these guys had kind of gotten together and formed like this grappling school where they were just taking online courses and just teaching each other jiu-jitsu, and they were learning it that way. And on top of that, through this online ranking system, they were like ranking each other through just teaching each other what they were seeing online. That is crazy, man. That's just not okay. That's never gonna be okay when it comes to learning this type of martial art. You need to be in an academy. You need to be in a martial arts school. You need to go learn jiu-jitsu from an actual professor, with teammates, with other people to roll with. It's just not one of those things you could do online. Now, you have boxing certifications and kickboxing certifications online, but those are fitness certifications, okay? Boxing and kickboxing certifications are more for the fitness aspect, so that people can teach cardio boxing and cardio kickboxing, so you can learn technical aspects of the movements to teach to someone so they can do it in a cardio-based workout. Jiu-jitsu can't be that. It never is, never has been, never will be. It is probably the closest thing to combat training that you will ever get, as far as showing up every day, and depending on the academy that you're at, every day you will engage in combat by rolling. I did see that there was another professor, I won't say his name, you can just Google these things, guys, but he was controversial because he was actually, and he's not renowned, I'd never heard of him before I Googled it, but he's respected in the community, but he started promoting people all the way up to like brown belt, just online, through back and forth through emails. My black belt is Gracie lineage, so I don't want to say anything, I don't want to criticize or be critical or even say anything negative about the Gracies, but this is just something I didn't agree with, and I can have an opinion, but again, I come from the Gracie lineage. As far as my professor who promoted me to black belt is Professor Henry Matamoros. His professor is Professor Pedro Sauer, and then Pedro Sauer is right under Helio Gracie. I come directly from the Gracies as far as my BJJ lineage, but I can see the business aspect of that, but I can't agree with that being acceptable to earn belts. Not when I know firsthand what it takes to get those belts. I mean, what I had to go through to get a blue belt, and someone would just go online and get one, or just show a few moves and get one, it's just not registering with me. I don't think it ever will. All right, so let me get off my diatribe about that specific way of online training. If you looked at it, if you considered it, stay away from it. Now, I will say that I'm an advocate for online courses. If you have a BJJ professor that you're a fan of, let's say you like Keenan Cornelius or something, and you go on, you see that he has an online course that you can take and learn, watch, I think there were 61 videos on his blue belt course. He is not offering you a blue belt. He is just releasing video tutorials. I'm okay with that. I'm an advocate for that. Get online and kind of take a look at those things and just up your skills. What other students tend to do is they just scour the internet and go on YouTube, and they start looking up these super complex moves and stuff like that. That's where I'm going to say you guys need to hit the pause button a little bit. This is a conversation I have to have with my students a lot. There are students that I've had to pull back and say, hey, get offline, or stop going online to learn jiu-jitsu, come to class. The reason being is these people, they'll go watch something because they think they're going to get an edge on their teammates. So these students go online and they start trying to like pocket skills that they think their teammates won't have so they can get an edge. But they're watching it online. They don't have a true aptitude for jiu-jitsu as far as having a solid foundation to really understand what they're watching. They're not always with someone that they can practice it on. And even if they were with someone they can practice with, those two people don't know how to correct each other, really. So if you're doing that, I'd say pull back if you're new, white, blue belt. Watch it. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but here's my disclaimer on that. Pull back a little bit and stop trying to go to the super complex stuff when you don't even know how to sweep people yet, right? You haven't mastered sweeps or even a couple sweeps. You haven't mastered control you haven't mastered a few submissions. Go to class and up your skills. Learn the technical way to do it from your professor and learn to do it with your teammates. From there, if you ever are looking for something and you see something online that you're curious about, all you need to do is check in with your coaches or your professor. When I was getting stuck in certain positions when I was a white belt, and we weren't covering the escapes to those positions, I would go online and I'd look up some things. But where I learned to be smart about it is I would check in with my professor or one of my grappling coaches. Sometimes I'd talk to my teammates, but ultimately I would always check in with one of the coaches or professors. And what they would do is correct me. They would show me, they would say, okay, yeah, I know that move. Or, well, I'm not familiar with that, but let me see what you're doing. Or let me see what you saw. Okay, I can see where that can work. Here's where you got to do it. So they would correct me or show me how to do it properly. Because again, I'm just going off of what I saw in a video and I didn't get to practice it with anyone. I was at home. So that way they could tell me if I was watching the right thing, if I was doing it the right way, and if it was something I should consider putting my time into at that juncture, at that part of my journey. So that's my advice to you guys. If you're gonna go online, if you're struggling in class for just the basics, don't fill your head, don't go online and you just start grabbing things that you think you're just gonna absorb when you don't have the mindset to absorb that yet, when you haven't gotten the foundation or the basics of jiu-jitsu. Now, if you're purple, brown, or black belt like me, you can go online and you can look at techniques, you can look at things and you can assess it because you have the foundations. When the things are being explained, you can do the complex moves because you know the basics that lead into the complex moves. But if you don't have the basics and you're looking at complex moves, you're trying to jump up here and you don't even know how to really travel down here. I hope that's making sense. But at the end of the day, what I'm saying to you is if you're going to try to look things up online and bring them into your arsenal, you need to check in with your coaches and your professor. Just until you have a basic understanding of specific aspects of jiu-jitsu, and each belt rank, each stripe is a different aspect of jiu-jitsu that you need to be growing into. Because another thing that can happen when you're teaching yourself moves online is you can come into class and then you could either hurt a team member because you don't really know how to do it properly, or you hurt yourself, or you just get discouraged because you're like, well, this doesn't even work. Well, it's because you don't really know how to do it properly. So again, just check in. And sometimes your professor might pull you back and say, hey, you shouldn't be looking at that right now. You should be looking at this. I've had students looking at submissions that are like well above where they're at, and they don't even really know how to sweep or how to get into a side control or amount of position to even set up the submission. My professor has said this to me over and over again, and it's actually stitched into one of my gis. It's position over submission. Why are you looking up submissions when you haven't even learned how to gain specific positions and hold them? On that note, just learn to be respectful. Don't come into your academy telling your professor this, that, and then throwing all this stuff out as if you have all this knowledge when you really don't. Sit and listen. Ask the right questions, but be respectful. And showing respect to your professor is asking him, I saw this, do you think this would work? Or can I try this because I'm getting stuck here? Or what a lot of students do is they pull me off to the side of the class. I keep getting stuck here, sir. What options do I have? So if you're gonna try to learn things online, just be mindful of how you do it. At the end of the day, as far as learning jiu-jitsu online, you have to learn it in person. You have to get into an academy or a school or a gym. You gotta learn this stuff with a group, with a capable instructor. And that's my 2 cents, guys. Again, I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from, and I hope it all makes sense. And I really hope that you get into jiu-jitsu if you haven't yet, or if you've been considering it, or if you're new to it, stay with it. It's a beautiful martial art. It can change your life, man, but you gotta commit to it in the right way. Okay, guys, thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed the content, and I'll see you in the next video.